So I would like to know from my colleague, who clearly wants these ties to continue, doesn't she think that she should consult that the people should consult constituents?
I can certainly say to this House that the constituents in my riding are very concerned with cost of living, with the need to expand dental care, and to work towards climate action. Thank you.
So that's all for that for now. We'll now go to statements by members. Déclaration de député. The honourable member for Scarborough Rouge Park.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to congratulate His Worship John Tory, the Mayor of the City of Toronto, on his decisive re-election last night. Mayor Tory has been instrumental in bringing all the people of the City of Toronto together. He brilliantly maneuvered the COVID-19 pandemic and ensured that the most vulnerable were supported. Under Mayor Tory's leadership, the City of Toronto is building an unprecedented level of transit, including the Scarborough subway extension. He's also committed to affordable housing, and in particular, transitional housing that has proper supports for all. Our government is fortunate to work with such a dynamic and accessible mayor, and we look forward to working together to make Toronto an even better place to live, work, and raise a family. Mr. Speaker, my heartfelt congratulations to the 25 City of Toronto councillors who were elected, including my municipal counterpart, Dr. Jennifer McKelvey, on her resounding re-election. I also want to welcome Jamal Myers, the new councillor for Scarborough North. Finally, I want to thank all those who put their names forward to serve their communities. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Order. So these statements by members, of course, are always very important so that we can actually clip them and get them on Facebook and be able to hear them correctly. But with all the noise, sometimes we can't clip them and do what we need to do with them. So make sure that we keep our down as we're getting ready for question period. The honourable member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock. Nope. All right. The honourable member for London West.
Mr. Speaker, today marks 3 decades of Canadian global nutrition leadership. That's 30 years of Nutrition International being Canada's flagship nutrition organization whose work to eliminate malnutrition worldwide has saved over 7 million lives. Ensuring people have not only food but the right to nutrition to allow them to survive and then thrive is more important than ever now. In this challenging global context, nutrition must continue to be the central pillar of Canada's efforts to tackle food security crisis, especially with the combined shocks of war, supply chain disruption, and droughts that threaten our lives. Mr. Speaker, Nutrition International continues to work hand in hand with governments to support the most vulnerable of our communities, and Canadians can be proud of this work. Happy 30 years, Nutrition International.
The honourable member for Rimouski-Nejet-Témiscouata-les-Basques. Mr. Speaker, today is the 21st Quebec Maritime Day, which highlights and celebrates the maritime industry's many contributions to our collective well-being. A true economic engine, it directly and indirectly employs nearly 25,000 workers in Quebec. People who work tirelessly from one end of the majestic St. Lawrence Seaway to the other to transport the goods consumed and used by millions of North American households. Here in the lower St. Lawrence, the maritime industry is firmly rooted in our daily lives and culture, as the river and its ships have been the backdrop to life in the lower St. Lawrence for hundreds of years. We are also home in the heart of downtown Rimouski, to the Institut Maritime du Québec, which is both the largest maritime training centre in Canada and the only French-language one. What a source of pride to cultivate tomorrow's maritime excellence in the heart of our region. Long live the maritime industry, and happy Quebec Maritime Day to all.
The honourable member for Halifax West.
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, the friendship between France and Canada is as strong as ever. As a member of the Canada-France Interparliamentary Association, I was privileged to help strengthen our bilateral ties at our 48th annual meeting earlier this month. I would like to thank my colleagues in the association, our counterparts, as well as the French senators, and all those who hosted us. This week of exchanges underlined our common interest in protecting the environment and promoting cultural diversity. I learned a lot about the state of the Francophonie in British Columbia and our relationships with Indigenous communities. I also participated in the unveiling of the Amitié France-Canada Monument at Beechwood Cemetery in Ottawa, which commemorates the enduring historical ties, as well as shared principles between our two countries. Vive le Canada and vive la France. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Battleford's Lloydsminster.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Activist policies drive the NDP Liberal agenda while economic management, transparency, and basic government services fall by the wayside. Canadians still can't get a passport. ArriveCan contracts are being fabricated, political interference is once again being covered up, and the disappointments, Mr. Speaker, they just keep coming. Mr. Speaker, Canadians are facing soaring costs, inflation at a 40-year high, and a looming recession. They are watching the cost of everything go up and seeing the value of the dollar in their pockets shrink. The cost of living is top of mind for my constituents, Mr. Speaker, and Canadians across this country. Yet this NDP Liberal coalition continues to tax, spend, and pour fuel on the affordability crisis. While the Prime Minister might go to great lengths to tell Canadians that he has their backs, the reality is, Mr. Speaker, that this NDP Liberal costing coalition costs them the shirt off their backs.
The Honourable Member for Mississauga, Streetsville.
Mr. Speaker, October 24th is an important day of celebration for the Sikh, Hindu, Jain, and Buddhist communities across Canada and all around the world. These communities will gather with friends and family to celebrate Diwali and Bandi Chhora Divas. The core values of Diwali celebrate the spiritual victory, knowledge, light, and good will triumph over ignorance, evil, and darkness. Throughout this month, I had the honor of celebrating Diwali and Bandi Chhora Divas with a multitude of groups and constituents in my riding. These celebrations remind us that diversity is our strength, and it recognizes the significant contributions that the Hindu, Sikh, Buddhist, and Jain faiths make in Canada. I would like to wish everyone that is celebrating a happy Diwali and Bandi Chhora Divas. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Canada Carleton.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday was an exciting day here in Ottawa, Municipal Election Day. And today we wake up with a new mayor-elect and new city council, including 11 new councillors. I'm incredibly proud of my friend Mark Sutcliffe, who is our new mayor for Ottawa, with his vision, his campaign, and his dedication to making our city the best possible place. The energy of countless volunteers that rallied around Mark and his vision was contagious. Our city came out in large numbers, showing their confidence in his leadership and his vision. To the 3 West Ottawa City Councillors that serve in my riding of Canada Carleton, Kathy, Allen, and Clark, I look forward to working alongside you in our amazing community. To all the candidates who stepped up, who had the courage to put their name on the ballot, our city is better because of you. And lastly, a special thank you to outgoing Mayor Jim Watson for his steadfast leadership over the years. You have served us incredibly well, and I hope you get a much-deserved vacation. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Haliburton, Kawartha Lakes, Brock.
Speaker, each year 2 students from each of my riding 7 secondary schools are selected to participate in a program called the Capital Experience. During their 3-day trip to Ottawa, they will learn about various career opportunities that await them following their graduation from post-secondary education. I would like to introduce this year's participants, Brody Bolger and Veronica Bainan from Haliburton Highland Secondary, Ella Volitis and Jacob Partridge from Crestwood, Logan McGuinness and Sophie Calduas from Fenland Falls, Olivia Rod and Kayla Ryan from LCVI, Olivia Kilo and Jocelyn Kennedy from IE Weldon, Brody Gorel and Zoe Hanna from Brock Township Secondary School, and of course Megan Ride Rod, and Sarah Hawkins from St. Thomas Aquinas. This trip is only possible because of the generosity and kindness of local sponsors such as Lions and Rotary Clubs, Royal Canadian Legions, and small business. It's my hope that these students will be inspired as they consider future opportunities, and I'd like to invite my colleagues to welcome these students to Ottawa.
Hey, welcome. The Honourable Member for Brantford-Brant.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians can't afford the costly coalition between the Liberals and the NDP. While this government acknowledges that there's a housing affordability crisis, they've done nothing to address it. Instead, their massive, chaotic spending drives ownership costs to record high levels. Since the beginning of this year, the Bank of Canada's rate hikes have added hundreds of dollars to mortgage payments every single month. This is in addition to record high taxes, grocery prices, and just inflation. RBC's national aggregate housing affordability measures surpassed the previous worst ever point in 1990. This is the verdict on this Prime Minister, who prioritizes his own political interests over the well-being of millions of Canadians and the future of our next generations. In contrast, Mr. Speaker, our new Conservative leader has a plan to restore the hope of home ownership in Canada. A Conservative government will stop this never-ending random spending by the NDP Liberal
Member for Nepean.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of all Canadians and in particular Indo-Canadians, I wish to congratulate Rishi Sunak on becoming the first person of color and the first Hindu to become the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom. His achievement is a proud moment for over 1.2 billion people of Indian heritage all across the world, including in Canada. It is a Diwali gift to about 700,000 Hindu Canadians. For me, another matter of interest is his wife Akshata Murthy comes from Bangalore, the same place I came from, and speaks the same language, Kannada. I hope Rishi Sunak will be an inspiration for the next generation Hindu Canadians and will motivate them to step forward for a more active role in public service. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would like to share with you my pessimism about the economic future of our country. The people of Portneuf-Jacques-Cartier, like all Canadians, are worried about inflation on a daily basis, which tells us that we are heading into a full-blown recession. Everything costs more. At the grocery store, the cost of food is going up every week. Everyone's bills jump. The cost of transportation is holding us hostage as it impacts all consumer goods. With winter coming, workers and their families will have to choose between eating or turning up the heat, both of which are vital. Meanwhile, the Liberals and their NDP accomplices want to raise taxes. In pre-recession times, this is not the time to raise taxes. The other countries have understood this. Why is this Liberal NDP coalition so out of touch? It's common sense. Will this government listen to reason and cancel all tax increases to give honest working Canadians some breathing room and hope?
The Honourable Member for Regina Louvain.
Canadians have had enough of this government's reckless and punitive tax scheme. Farmers across Saskatchewan and the country feel ignored and mistreated by this government. And it just keeps getting worse. As we learned recently, that the government will be tripling, yes, I said tripling, their carbon tax. The Ottawa Knows Best approach from the Liberals keeps hamstringing our farmers as they try to dry their grain, heat their barns, and export their first-class agriculture products around the world to help feed the world. A government led by our leader will respect farmers, listen to their concerns, and work together to remove the gatekeepers in our country. Most importantly, we will scrap the carbon tax and finally give respect to the Canadian farmers that they've been missing for the past 7 years. Canadians and our farmers can't afford the costly coalition between the NDP and the Liberals. A Canadian government should value and promote our agriculture sector, not try and tax it out of existence.
The Honourable Member for Longueuil, Charles Lemoine. Mr. Speaker, I am pleased to highlight the achievements of 4 Longueuil residents, members of the Warriors, who stood on the podium at the World Obstacle Course Championship held in Vermont last September. The team which represented Canada at the competition won 3 medals, including a gold medal. Léa Latour won the silver medal in the women's 13 to 19 category over the 15-kilometre distance. Chantal Castonguay, Émilie Chagnon and Léa Latour finished third with a bronze medal in the women's team race. Sean Michel won the gold medal in the men's 20 to 29-kilometre race. In all, 29 Warriors athletes participated in this event. The Warriors train every weekend at the Gérard Filion School in Longueuil, located in my riding. Congratulations to all participants and to the winners. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Bravo. The Honourable Member for Timmins James Bay.
Winter is coming and Canadians are feeling the pressure of rising heating bills, and New Democrats are calling on this government to take the GST off home heating in order to give people some relief. Now, taking the GST off heating has been a long-standing policy of New Democrats because it makes it easier for seniors and working-class families who are feeling the pressure of rising costs. Now, we attempted to work with the Conservatives on taking the GST off heating, but they refused, and that's not surprising because this Conservative Party is about the politics of division while we're here about getting things done. I mean, look at how they rail on about inflation while putting nothing on the table that's credible. Yep. We negotiated a doubling of the GST tax credit. We pushed for the investigation into the gouging by the grocery giants, and we are pushing forward with a national dental care strategy while the Conservatives stand on the sidelines and howl in outrage. And when it comes to getting relief off heating bills, New Democrats will continue to put forward the solutions that help the working class and seniors.
Hear, hear. L'honorable.
The Honourable Member for Rivière-du-Nord. Mr. Speaker, every day dozens of constituents in my riding are developing the transportation solutions of tomorrow with players such as Lyon Électrique, the Institut du Véhicule Innovant and the Centre de Développement des Composites du Québec. Rivière-du-Nord is on the road to the future, an innovative, clean and profitable path. And that's possible because our entire community, led by Marc Boursier, the Mayor of Saint-Jérôme, is fully committed to it. Together, we will continue to position Rivière-du-Nord as the hub for innovation in transportation and electrification. Today, Mr. Speaker, the Institut du Véhicule Innovant is holding a major event in Mirabel dedicated to the electrification of heavy vehicles, which are responsible for 37% of Quebec's greenhouse gas emissions from the transportation sector. I commend the people at the IVI for their work and assure them of my full support and that of Le Bloc Québécois. The electrification of transportation is good for Rivière-du-Nord, good for Quebec, and it's good for the planet. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Carleton Trail, Eagle Creek.
Mr. Speaker, we recently learned that this Liberal government spent $54 million on the ArriveCan app, an application that experts say could have been created for $200,000. In a document signed off by the government, we were given a list of companies that were contracted to do the work. Last week, one of those companies came forward saying they don't do this kind of work and didn't receive a penny, proving these Liberals gave false information to Canadians. With 2 more companies coming forward, we now know that millions of dollars are missing. Let's think about that. Millions of dollars over budget and millions of dollars unaccounted for. Canadians know this scandal-ridden Liberal government can't be trusted. They also know Liberal insiders are the ones who benefit. While transparency and accountability aren't this government's strong suit, Canadians have a right to know how their tax dollars are being spent and who got rich.
Yeah. The Honourable Member for Ottawa Centre.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. I join my Ottawa caucus colleagues to congratulate Mark Sutcliffe, the new mayor of our nation's capital. Speaker, Mark is a community leader. He's got an incredible capacity to bring people together and to listen and be a mayor for all of Ottawa. I also want to thank Catherine McKenney for running a strong campaign and really giving a positive vision for our community. We thank Catherine for their public service. Speaker, I also want to congratulate all councillors and school board trustees who have been elected to represent our community. And lastly, a big thank you to Jim Watson, the outgoing mayor of Ottawa, for his decades of public service. Our city is better because of members of our community getting out there and for voting and making sure that Ottawa is one of the best cities to live in our country. Thank you very much.
Oral questions, question orale, the Honourable Leader of the Opposition. After the Prime Minister caused the highest inflation rates in 40 years with its inflationary deficits of $500 billion, the Prime Minister's tried to blame everyone else. But the future Liberal leader, Mark Carney, says currently inflation is mainly a domestic issue. Most of the inflation we're experiencing now is domestic in origin. So who should Liberals believe, their current leader or their future leader? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. There are global pressures causing inflation, whether it's disrupted supply chains or the cost of oil or the increase in food prices caused by Russia's illegal invasion of Ukraine. And that's why we took concrete steps to help Canadians with GST refunds, with dental care for young children, and rental assistance for low-income renters. We don't understand why the Conservatives keep opposing steps that will help Canadian households. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Against Ukraine, but we get less than 0.3% of our trade with those countries. In fact, the things they make are things we already have here, energy and food, if the Prime Minister would get out of the way and let Canadians produce it. And maybe that's why Mark Carney disagrees with him. He says it's quite of inflation. It's quite broad, so it's not all imported inflation. In fact, most of it is now domestically generated inflation. And this Prime Minister is responsible for that inflation. Why won't he take responsibility?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we know Canadians are struggling with the ability to pay their bills, with their abilities to support their families, with their concerns for the months ahead. That's why we've stepped up in terms of helping them. We're delivering help as a doubling of the GST rebate over 6 months with a check that should arrive in the coming weeks in Canadians' bank accounts. At the same time as we're moving forward with support for low-income renters and help for kids under 12 to send them to the dentists. Unfortunately, despite the Conservative leader's rhetoric, he is not supporting support for renters and dental. Why isn't he supporting?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Well, it's $500 billion of inflationary deficits that have bid up the cost of the goods we buy and the interest that we pay. Inflationary taxes are making it worse, including a tripling of the carbon tax, which will raise home heating prices. Maybe that's why Mark Carney, the future leader of the Liberal Party, is saying, and I quote, "But really now inflation is principally a domestic story." So he disagrees that it can all be blamed on the rest of the world. So who should Liberals believe? Their current leader or their future one?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
On this side of the House, Mr. Speaker, we listen to Canadians who are talking about the fact that they're having trouble paying for groceries, having trouble paying their bills, worried about what the winter's going to look like, which is why we've stepped up as a government to deliver checks to support them in the coming weeks with a GST rebate that is going to help 11 million households, and measures to help low-income families pay the rent as well as send their kids to the dentist. Why isn't the Conservative Party that says it cares about affordability stepping up to support on rental and dental? Why won't they support Canadians?
Before we go to the Leader of the Opposition, I just want to remind the honourable members to pay attention to their whips. The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
This Prime Minister has built a house of debt. He doubled Canada's debt, added more debt than all Canadian Prime Ministers combined. He flooded our financial and mortgage system with easy cash, which bid up house prices, forcing Canadians to pay over $1 million for the average home in Toronto or Vancouver. And now the bill is coming due. Tomorrow, interest rates are expected to go up 0.5 to 0.75 of a point. And those same Canadians that this Prime Minister forced to over-leverage themselves will be hit with an uppercut of surprise higher interest rates his government said would never happen. How could he have been so irresponsible?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I know the Leader of the Opposition disagreed with us, but we chose to have Canadians' backs through the worst economic crisis of the pandemic in generations. We were there with supports for workers, for small businesses. We were there for supports for seniors and young people. We were there to support Canadians, not just because it was the right thing to do, but because it was also the smart thing to do to ensure that our economy would come back faster, and it has faster than many of our peer countries. This is why we know that supporting Canadians is the best way to build a strong future. Why aren't they supporting dental and rental for Canadians who need it?
The Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
He didn't have Canadians' backs. He went behind their backs so that he could give $54 million to the disastrous ArriveCan app that we didn't need, didn't work, and that developers could design in a single weekend. He went behind Canadians' back to give out $500 million to the We Charity organization. He went behind Canadians' back to give out CERB checks to prisoners and public servants who were actually on the payroll at the time. You know, these monstrous deficits wouldn't be quite so bad if he hadn't wasted so much money. Why did he waste so much and leave Canadians with so little?
Right Honourable Prime Minister.
The lesson for most Canadians from this pandemic we all have been going through is that Canadians are there for each other. We support each other through times of difficulty, and when we do that, we actually do better than if we had all tried to go our own way. The reality is, being there for each other is what has got us to where we are today with a strong economy and given us the ability to step up and support directly those who need it with GST rebates, with dental and rental supports. Again, dental and rental supports that Conservatives are opposed to.
The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. For the Prime Minister, submitting to the monarchy is unimportant. But the Prime Minister is an intelligent man. He can think about more than one thing at a time. But he's acting as if he can't. And it's too bad. He's going to have to vote tomorrow. Does he support our attachment to the British Crown? Because as far as we're concerned, an insincere oath doesn't count. So when the Prime Minister swears an oath to the Crown, is he being sincere? Was the translation working?
It was working? No? Okay, everybody got it? Okay, just make excuse.
Okay, sorry. One member didn't hear it, but we'll go to the Prime Minister.
Check your...
Monsieur le Président.
Mr. Speaker, the Bloc Québécois has a full day to talk about Quebecers' concerns and Canadians' priorities. They could have talked about the cost of living, about inflation, about the work that we can do together here in the House for the benefit of Canadians. But no, the Bloc Québécois, surprise, surprise, wants to open up the Constitution. That's not what Quebecers and Canadians are concerned about these days. We are going to remain focused on their realities, what they need, and we will continue to be there for all Canadians. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, we'll give him the benefit of the doubt. We'll assume that he was being sincere when he swore an oath to the Queen. Because who would want an insincere Prime Minister? What good would that be? So, Mr. Speaker, we understand that he and all Conservatives and Liberals, everybody's sincere when they swear an oath to the British Crown. Mr. Speaker, when you're caught between the Crown and the people, when your allegiance is to the Crown or to a democracy, are they going to serve a foreign king? The Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, no one here is going to question the sincerity of the Bloc leader when he swore an allegiance to the British Crown. The fact is, Mr. Speaker, Canadians are concerned about other issues, whether it's climate change, global instability, the cost of living, what have you. But those are the things we want to talk about. They want to reopen the Constitution. We're going to remain focused on the real concerns of Canadians because we are here to serve Canadians in one of the most stable democracies in the world, and that is good for Canadians. The Honourable Member for Burnaby South, in Quebec and elsewhere, there is no end of emergencies. Someone died in the hospital because they had to wait for so long in an ER waiting room. Health workers are tired. They need help. When is this Prime Minister going to come out of hiding and protect our healthcare system? The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Mr. Speaker, over the past 2 years of this pandemic, we invested $72 billion more in healthcare, over and above the $40 billion we transfer to the provinces annually, $72 billion more to help with healthcare all across the country. And we, as we promised, we are negotiating with the provinces and territories. We're discussing increases to health transfers, and we know that all Canadians want concrete solutions. That's what we all want.
Big oil and gas are profiteering from the inflation. They're making record profits, all the while Canadians are faced with energy prices which will increase on average between 50 and 100%. Home heating in Canada is essential. If the Prime Minister wanted to, he could today make a difference in the lives of Canadians for this upcoming winter. Will he remove GST from home heating and provide support to Canadians, yes or no?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, we're directly helping Canadians with 11 million households with a doubling of the GST rebate that is going to help them with hundreds of dollars as they approach this winter to be able to cover the costs of various bills. We're also stepping up with support for Canadians who need dental care for their kids under 12. We're stepping up with support for low-income renters. We're going to continue to be there for Canadians, including with a price on pollution that puts more money back in Canadians' pockets in the provinces where it's being imposed. This is how we stick up for Canadians.
The Honourable Member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Mr. Speaker, the Finance Minister would have people believe she had a financial epiphany recently. We're not sure the Prime Minister has started thinking about monetary policy just yet, but this is a start. She finally admits the fiscal disaster her government created isn't working, and the only way to fix this Liberal inflation is to rein in spending. Canadians are skeptical, though, given Liberals are the ones who caused this inflation in the first place. Did the Finance Minister really wake up to reality, or was this peer pressure?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister. Sorry, the Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, Canada has the lowest net debt to GDP ratio among G7 countries, and Canada has the lowest deficit among G7 countries. Mr. Speaker, our deficit is hovering around 1%. That is nearly deficit zero. We have been fiscally responsible well before the new Conservative leader was elected, Mr. Speaker. In fact, we have been fiscally responsible in order to ensure that Canada would weather this inflationary storm better than most other countries. Mr. Speaker, the inflation numbers that we are seeing among our peers are much higher than we're seeing here in Canada, and in Canada we have an affordability plan that will help Canadians.
Hear, hear. The Honourable Member for Calgary, Forest Lawn.
Canadians are paying the price for her government's fiscal mismanagement and Liberal inflation. $110 billion spent before COVID, $500 billion spent over the last few years, and $200 billion of which wasn't even COVID-related. Canadians' kitchen cabinets are bare while the Liberal cabinet keeps spending more money and filling their Liberal friends' cabinets up. But now, all of a sudden, this finance minister is telling her government to finally think about their inflationary spending habits. How can Canadians trust the arsonist to put out the fire they started in the first place?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, many of our allies are seeing inflation at above 10%. We here in Canada are faring relatively better, but still seeing prices rise, which is why we put forward a comprehensive affordability plan. But I'd like to get back to something that the Conservative leader said in this House. He said, quote, "It is true that dumb governments all have inflation problems." Mr. Speaker, that statement is dangerous for many reasons. You see, Canada is a trading nation. We export more than we import. To say that our closest trading partners are led by dumb governments is to risk harm to the economy and to millions upon millions of Canadian jobs. These are serious times, Mr. Speaker. Serious times deserve...
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday the NDP Liberal Costly Coalition voted against removing their carbon tax from home heating. The carbon tax costs Albertans over $1,500 this year, and they don't get anywhere near that back. The fact is, these Liberals are punishing Canadians for the basic need of heating their homes, and they're going to triple their take. Canadians are already choosing between heating and eating, forced to wear winter coats inside just to afford groceries. Why won't the Liberals cancel their triple tax hikes on home heating?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Right now in British Columbia, parts of the province have been without water for more than 100 days. In Port au Basque, more than 100 families won't be able to go back to their home, and that's just a beginning, Mr. Speaker. In fact, some people are saying, I don't want to go back there. It's become too dangerous. What does the Conservative Party has to say about what they would do to fight climate change and protect Canadians? Nothing. In fact, they want to make pollution free again in Canada, Mr. Speaker. That's unacceptable. We have to work to protect Canadians from the impacts of climate change.
The honourable member for Lakeland.
Canadians have to heat their homes. It's not a choice. Liberals are calling them polluters, while Conservatives are the only ones fighting to make life more affordable. And Mr. Speaker, they say bad news comes in three. Well, there is more. Next year, the Liberals will hit everyone with a new carbon tax, the Liberal fuel standard. The carbon tax already costs Canadians up to $2,300 more than they get back. The new one will be another $1,300. Struggling Canadians just can't afford almost $4,000 in new taxes a year. So why won't the Liberals stop their plan to triple taxes on gas, groceries, and home heating?
The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, in the lead-up to the last election campaign, every single member opposite were in favor. Well, you said so to Canadians. They said to Canadians that they were going to put a price on carbon, Mr. Speaker. Were they lying to Canadians then, or are they lying now? That's the question I have for them. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I just want to remind the honourable members, I know it gets passionate sometimes, but please place the questions through the Speaker. I want to assure the Minister that I didn't do a thing. I didn't say a thing.
The honourable member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, it's no secret that the bickering within the Liberal cabinet is still going on. The first public sign of friction came in 2020 when former Finance Minister Bill Morneau walked out because he objected to his Prime Minister's spending record. And last week, that friction reached a breaking point when the Finance Minister publicly contradicted her leader by saying that his government would have to tighten its belt. What's clear to us is that this government must stop fueling inflation immediately. Will the Prime Minister commit to cancelling his plan to triple the carbon tax? The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary. Mr. Speaker, it was the right thing to do to be there for Canadians during the pandemic, and it's thanks to our support for Canadians that the economy bounced back as quickly as it did. And as we go through global economic insecurity, instability right now, Canada is posting the best growth record among the G7 and with the lowest deficit. We were fiscally responsible all throughout, and responsible for all of us were. The Honourable Member for Charlebourg-Haute-Saint-Charles. Mr. Speaker, it's clear the Finance Minister left because things weren't working, and the current one is contradicting the Prime Minister. No one in Cabinet agrees on anything. That's a problem. Meanwhile, we want people to understand that it's dysfunctional right now, that government. When will they show some compassion, cancel the carbon tax, and undertake not to increase any other taxes on Canadians and Quebecers? The Honourable Minister. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to remind my colleague that in Quebec there's a carbon exchange. It's different from the federal system. And in the spirit of cooperation with the provinces, we allowed those that had their own system to keep it. So in Quebec, the federal carbon tax does not apply. I'd be pleased to explain the difference to my colleague. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Belleuil-Chambly. Mr. Speaker, I'm going to make it clear. My oath to the British Crown was not sincere. It was under compulsion. It was a forced oath. Order.
À l'ordre.
Order.
L'honorable député.
The honourable member for Belleuil-Chambly from the start, please. Inaudible for the interpreter. So it was a compelled oath. My heart wasn't in it. It meant nothing. My only allegiance, excluding the foreign king, my only allegiance is to the people of Quebec and the Quebec nation. Mr. Speaker, you can tell the Prime Minister, and you can tell it to the King.
L'honorable.
The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Mr. Speaker, I wonder if his oath was insincere, how many other times he's been insincere in this place. But I'd like to congratulate the Bloc leader for his almost unconditional love for the Canadian Constitution and his desire to improve it. But it might hurt him to know this. It's not Quebecers' top priority. Their top priority is the cost of living, access to housing, our young people and our seniors. Those are the priorities of Quebecers, as much as it pains me to let the Bloc leader know. The honourable member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, the parliamentary budget officer has confirmed that the Liberal NDP dental benefit discriminates against Quebecers. Parents of kids 12 and under in Quebec will get half as much as parents in Canada. 50% of Quebec kids will qualify, but 100% of Quebec taxpayers will have to chip in. That's discrimination, courtesy of the NDP and the Liberal Party, Mr. Speaker. Discrimination can be fixed, though. What's the government going to do to stop this? The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I'm very thankful to have this question, which gives me the opportunity to talk about dental care for children. 500,000 Canadian kids will now have access to free dental care. And for Quebec, there will be additional support for preventative dental care. And we know how important prevention is when it comes to dental health. This will help families and kids all across Canada, including in Quebec. The Honourable Member for Mirabel. Mr. Speaker, let me give you another explanation of how this dental benefit discriminates against Quebecers. It's because more of us have group insurance that covers dental care. In Quebec, both workers and employers agree to contribute to provide care for our kids. Today, the federal government is taxing those workers who make an effort to cut checks for others who aren't making the same effort. Do the Liberals and the NDP realize that they are discriminating against thousands of Quebec workers, most of whom are unionized? The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The member is right. Many of us in Canada and Quebec realize that dental care is important, including Canadian companies who do provide dental benefits in their collective agreements. And there 40% of care, unfortunately, has to be paid for by individuals who don't have dental coverage. And that's why we wanted to ensure that all Canadians, including Quebecers, could have access to this dental care program.
Mr. Speaker, new evidence has surfaced with respect to the political interference in the investigation of the mass shooting in Nova Scotia in 2020. Sadly, Mr. Speaker, 22 people and an unborn child died in this incredibly tragic event. It is exceedingly clear that the Minister of Public Safety politically interfered in the investigation of Canada's worst mass shooting. Nova Scotians want answers, not cover-ups. Such interference may be expected in a banana republic, but not in Canada. Will the minister resign?
The Honourable Minister to the Queen's Privy Council.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, as we have said a number of times in this House, the independence of police operations underpins the rule of law. This is a principle that I have not only always respected, but one which I have defended vigorously for decades. And Mr. Speaker, to be clear and explicit to everyone in this House, as I have been many times, I did not direct the Commissioner of the RCMP in any operational matter, including in the release of information pertaining to the firearms used in this tragedy. And further, Mr. Speaker, the Commissioner herself has testified a number of times that there was no interference.
The Honourable Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the former Minister of Public Safety said yesterday that his testimony in committee was entirely accurate. But the Commissioner of the RCMP not only directly contradicted his remarks in committee, but also in the newly released audio recording of the Commissioner during the infamous April 28, 2020 meeting where she reprimanded her deputies. So it stands to reason then that the Minister is implying that the Commissioner lied, that she lied to her deputies on the April 28th meeting, and that she lied to parliamentarians in committee. So if that's the case, Mr. Speaker, she should resign. Did she lie, Mr. Speaker?
The Honourable Minister.
Yes, Mr. Speaker. The member opposite is free to engage in any speculation and even fabrication that she wishes, although I would suggest that she might be somewhat more circumspect when she steps out of this House and makes such spurious allegations. But, Mr. Speaker, let me repeat. I did not direct the Commissioner of the RCMP in any operational matter. The Commissioner has confirmed that in her testimony before committee and under oath before the Mass Casualty Commission. Mr. Speaker, the matter is settled.
Honourable Member for Kildonan St. Paul.
Mr. Speaker, the Minister is expecting us to believe that the Commissioner acted solely on her own, that she politicized the tragic deaths of 22 Canadians, that she reprimanded her deputies for failing to share the models of the firearms used in those deaths, that she directly tied this to the Liberals' gun control policy, and then told her deputies that it was the Minister's office who asked her to do this. We're supposed to believe that she did this all on her own, Mr. Speaker. It's ridiculous, Mr. Speaker. If that was true, she would be fired, at least by a government with any common decency or integrity. So someone is lying, Mr. Speaker. Who is it?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I have been clear, explicit, and unequivocal that at no time did I give direction to the RCMP to interfere with operations. And I will simply quote the Commissioner's testimony before committee and the Mass Casualty Commission, in which he said, "I did not receive direction, and I was not influenced by government officials regarding the public release of information or on the direction of the investigation." That is the Commissioner's testimony, and it coincides precisely with my statement that no direction was given.
The Honourable Member for Louis Saint Laurent. Mr. Speaker, let's look at the facts as they stand. When the Commissioner had a conversation with her colleagues, and she said, I quote, "It was a request that I got from the Minister's office, and I told the Minister the information would be released, and then it wasn't." Mr. Speaker, it couldn't be any clearer. The RCMP Commissioner is implicating the Minister. Can the Minister act in...
Again, what is very clear is that the RCMP Commissioner, in her testimony before Executive Committee and in front of the Mass Casualty Commission under oath, was very clear that there was no interference, that I did not give her direction, and at no time, and in fact, she did clarify for the committee that I have always been meticulously careful in not providing her with direction. That's her testimony, Mr. Speaker, and my statement to this House and my testimony previously is that I did not give her any direction on any operational matter.
The honourable member for Nunavut.
Inuit elders have endured many atrocities in their lifetime and deserve to age with dignity. These atrocities include residential schools, forced religious conversion, and the slaughter of sled dogs. Due to failures from this government, Inuit are exiled down south in long-term care facilities. It is unacceptable that elders in Nunavut fear dying alone away from home. When will this government start properly funding home care so elders can remain home with their loved ones?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the member from Nunavut for a very important question. And this is one of many priorities that we are working on in partnership with the government of Nunavut, with Inuit rights holders in Inuit Nunangat. We've adopted an Inuit Nunangat policy. And just this morning, I had a very good discussion with the Minister of Health of Nunavut to talk precisely about these very issues. So we will make progress in partnership with the government of Nunavut.
For Vancouver Kingsway.
Mr. Speaker, emergency rooms across Canada are closing because there isn't enough staff to keep them open, and Canadians are dying waiting for care. Just this week, a man passed away in Quebec after waiting 16 hours in the ER. This situation is occurring in every corner of our country, an outrageous situation for a G7 nation. Mr. Speaker, we need national leadership. When will this Prime Minister sit down with the premiers to negotiate stable, sufficient, and long-term federal health care funding and save Canadians' lives?
Hear, hear, hear.
L'Honorable, the Honourable Minister of Health.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I think we're all grateful for the member's question. We all feel and fear the consequences of the crisis that healthcare workers are going through throughout the country. That's true everywhere in Canada. Through a difficulty, as we heard, of accessing appropriate emergency care, but more than that, difficulty in having access to a family health team, having access to a safe and quality long-term care home, having access to home care, having access to palliative care, having access to dental care, indeed, Mr. Speaker. And that's why we're investing many, many billions of dollars, and we're going to continue doing that because we promised we would do so.
Honourable member for Hamilton Mountain.
This year marks the 30th anniversary of Women's History Month. With the theme, She Did, So Now I Can, we recognize the actions of strong women who have had a positive impact on our lives, who have been pushing boundaries so others can have more opportunities today. With misogyny on the rise, including in this House, Speaker, our government recognizes the importance of uplifting and celebrating women's voices. Can the Minister of Women and Gender Equality and Youth speak about Women's History Month and share what we can do to support women now and in the future?
The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I thank the honourable member for her empathetic leadership. And as we close out Women's History Month, some thoughts on how women hold up their communities, make them stronger. To the women working on the front lines selflessly, simply because they want to serve, Mr. Speaker. To women carving out careers and simultaneously caring for kids and senior parents. To women marching on the streets for the right to choose, Mr. Speaker. You are not invisible. We hear you. We stand with you.
The Honourable Member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
$54 million wasted on the Arrive scam, with millions of dollars missing. $680 million on vaccines that were thrown in the garbage after a reckless procurement process. And now $400,000 spent on luxuries and hotel rooms for a weekend in London. This Liberal government has no problem wasting the hard-earned tax dollars that they take from everyday Canadians. When will these Liberals cap spending, cut taxes, and give Canadians a break?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, one of the measures in our affordability plan is to provide a direct payment to low-income Canadians who are having trouble paying the rent. What was the response of the new Conservative leader, Mr. Speaker? It was to say, no way. No, let us not give anything to low-income Canadians, certainly not those peanuts. And Mr. Speaker, while that might be fine for the Conservative leader who doesn't have rent to pay, who in fact lives in a big mansion paid for by the Canadian taxpayer, for low-income Canadians, $500 will help them get to Christmas. For low-income Canadians, that is real money, Mr. Speaker, and we are there to support those Canadians.
The honourable member for Leeds, Grenville, Thousand Islands and Rideau Lakes.
What this side of the House and the Conservative leader said was to not give $500 million to the Kielburgers. This side of the House has said not to do insider deals with people like Frank Baylis or their buddies at SNC-Lavalin. We're hearing the same old tired talking points from these Liberals while they're wasting hundreds of millions of dollars of Canadians' hard-earned money when they can barely afford to heat their homes. Liberals are out of touch and Canadians are out of money. When will they just give Canadians a break?
Yeah. The Honourable Minister for Innovation.
Mr. Speaker, we will take no lessons from the Conservative, Mr. Speaker. And Canadians who are watching at home, remember the last advice they give to Canadians was about crypto, Mr. Speaker. We will continue to invest in skills and people, Mr. Speaker. We'll continue to invest in our ecosystem, Mr. Speaker. We'll continue to invest in our critical minerals, Mr. Speaker. We'll continue to build an economy that works for everyone and for every Canadian watching at home.
The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister is acting like a child who has an unlimited credit card and who can just make minimum payments, and he knows that his children will pay it down. So we've got $400,000 for hotels in London and cronies. Why pay $250,000 when they can pay $50 million more for Arrive Can? What about $680 million for vaccines that got thrown out? Mr. Speaker, is there an adult among the Liberals? And should we take the Prime Minister's credit card away? The Honourable Minister of Families. The Conservatives forget what happened during the pandemic. It is this government who is there for Canadians. 9 million Canadians were supported through government payments, Canadians who lost their jobs. We were there, Mr. Speaker, during the pandemic. We're here now with the Canada Child Benefit and care for early childhood, and as well for people who have lost their jobs. Mr. Speaker, we are supporting Canadians, and we're not going to stop doing so. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Mégantic-L'Érable. Maybe that's a lapse, Mr. Speaker, but we're not going to forgive them for having paid $500 billion, adding $500 billion to the debt, and nothing was done for COVID. That's the reality. What about Arrive Scam? $55 million for an app that should have cost $250,000. $8 million for updates? That never worked, Mr. Speaker. The government even says that it paid millions of dollars to businesses that said they never got a cent, Mr. Speaker. That's the reality. Mr. Speaker, this costly coalition is too expensive for the Canadians. Who is the winner of the Liberal lottery? The Honourable Minister of Health. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm sure that there are many people who are wondering about the previous question when he criticized the vaccine supply for Canadians. Mr. Speaker, you know that these figures that came out of this said that we had an exceptional supply of vaccines, and that's what likely saved about 100,000 lives in Canada. So, or rather 400,000 lives. So these people were saved. And in addition to people who might have lost loved ones because of the quality of the work done by this government to secure these vaccines. The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, Winter is coming, and it's going to be tough for seasonal workers in regions. They've been left to fend for themselves by EI since the qualifying threshold went to 700 hours. We're not even talking about a black hole anymore, Mr. Speaker. It's a void. That's why Interprovincial Alliance is in Ottawa today. This is a group of 20 unions and advocacy groups from Eastern Quebec and the Maritimes. They're here to tell the government that the EI reform that is promised can no longer wait. When will the government finally get this reform done? We want a date, Mr. Speaker.
Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, we know Canada needs an EI system for the 21st century. That's why we have been consulting widely with Canadians to build a system that works for everyone, including seasonal workers. Although our temporary COVID support measures are winding down, regular EI benefits will continue to be available for workers, just as they were before the pandemic. And with Budget 2022, we are investing $110 million to extend the seasonal pilot until October 2023. Mr. Speaker, we know there is more work to do, and that's why we are committed to fully modernizing Canada's EI system. We look forward to launching our long-term plan. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Member for Thérèse de Blainville. Mr. Speaker, that answer doesn't work anymore. The government had already promised a reform in the summer, and we're still waiting. In fact, it's been promising this reform since 2015. It's been making promises for 7 years and telling us, yes, it's coming. Now, workers are fed up. They can't be patient anymore. They're sick of being left to fend for themselves. They are here today on the Hill because they are not eligible anymore for employment insurance. They have been left in limbo. Will the Minister's office at least agree to meet with them? The Honourable Minister. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'd like to thank my honourable colleague for her question, for her work. I know that she has been working tirelessly for these people, and I know that we are working hard on the EI reform. We know on this side of the House that it is important. We need to get it done. I know the government is working on consultations to ensure that employers and employees have access to a quality EI system for Canadians today and in the future. Thank you.
The Honourable Member for Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, for 7 years, this government's mantra has been spend, spend, spend. They added $100 billion in debt before COVID and $500 billion of debt during COVID. Wow. They told us not to worry. The Deputy Prime Minister said just over 1 year ago, in today's low interest rate environment, not only can we afford these investments, it would be short-sighted not to make them. But now, in a leadership launch speech, the Deputy Prime Minister is distancing herself even from her own record, saying now is the time for restraint. How can Canadians trust the arsonist to put out the fire?
Great question.
Great. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, what the member opposite is talking about is CERB, Canada Emergency Response Benefit, that supported 9 million Canadians in one of the most difficult periods of time that our country has faced. What he's talking about is the Canada Emergency Wage Support that supported millions of Canadians and prevented organizations and businesses from closing their doors. And you know what those supports did, Mr. Speaker? It ensured that when the economy was ready to open up, when we were able to do that because public health measures worked and because Canadians did what they needed to do to get this pandemic under control, it meant that people could go back to work, businesses could reopen, and our economy could come back just as strong as before.
Honourable Member for Simcoe North.
Mr. Speaker, even the Parliamentary Budget Officer said half of the COVID spending wasn't even spent on COVID. Wow. This government said interest rates would remain low. They said there would be no inflation. Then they said inflation would be temporary. And now inflation's out of control, and this government is going to spend more on interest on the debt than we do on national defense. Wow. The government's plan hasn't worked. How can Canadians afford any more of this government?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary.
Mr. Speaker, let me simply correct the record by saying, as I said before, that we actually have the lowest deficit among G7 countries. It's hovering around 1%, almost zero deficit, Mr. Speaker. But let me also come back to the importance of the measures that we did put in place and the importance of supporting Canadians when they needed it most. It not only ensured that Canadians continue to take home a paycheck, Canadians continue to be able to pay their rent and their mortgage, but our economy has come roaring back even stronger than it did prior to the pandemic, thanks to the smart investments that we made and the fiscal responsibility that we still maintain today.
The honourable member for Sarnia-Lambton.
Well, that member is in deficit fantasy land. Mr. Speaker, our leader and our party have been calling for weeks for these Liberals to cancel taxes on Canadians. And yet, the Liberals are still planning to triple the carbon tax. I'm going to ask again today, will they stop their punishing plans to increase the carbon tax and drive up the cost of gas, groceries, and home heating? Yes or no?
Yes. The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Mr. Speaker, I'd like to quote the member for Durham, who said, "We recognize that the most efficient way to reduce our emission is to use pricing mechanisms." We agree, Mr. Speaker. And may I also quote the member for New Brunswick Southwest, who said the backstop will kick in, the feds will take it over, and checks will begin to roll out to New Brunswick. That's exactly what we're doing, Mr. Speaker. We're fighting climate change and supporting Canadians. Thank you.
The honourable member for Châteauguay-Lacolle. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Minister of Sport recently announced the renewal of funding of $25.3 million over 3 years for fairness for gender fairness in sport. This investment will help recruit and retain women and girls and will bolster ongoing efforts to achieve fairness between sexes at all levels by 2035. Can the Minister explain to us how this new contribution will help women in the world of sport? The Honourable Minister of Sport. Mr. Speaker, I'd like to thank my colleague from Châteauguay-Lacolle for her excellent work. We want to see more women and children participating in sports, but we also want to see more female coaches, officials, and women in senior management positions. This investment seeks to make all levels of sport in Canada more inclusive and accessible. We know this will make a major difference in the Canadian sports system, and we've seen recently that the place of women in sports is still undermined, but we are here to change things and to support their efforts. Thank you. The Honourable Member for Chicoutimi-Lafiale. Mr. Speaker, the Liberals have mismanaged the national debt. They counted on low interest rates in order to spend, but now they have to tax so they can spend. In the energy sector, the government was not able to prepare for the economic shock that was felt across the world. People don't have enough money and have no leeway. Will the Liberals pledge to be compassionate and to cancel the carbon tax? The Honourable Minister of Canadian Heritage. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives have a very short memory. When we talk about COVID programs, it took unanimous support here in the House. We didn't have time to debate it in the House. Every party had to approve it right away. And every time we tried, they approved every single one of the programs we presented, unless they weren't sincere that time either.
Member for Banff Airdrie.
Mr. Speaker, people in my part of Alberta were just hit with 5 inches of snow, and more is on the way. Winter is coming, and Canadians will need to heat their homes to keep out of the cold. So why is this Prime Minister taxing home heating fuel like it's some kind of luxury? Has he forgotten that we live in Canada? So when will he do the right thing and cancel his plan to triple the taxes on gas, groceries, and home heating?
Hear, hear. The Honourable Minister.
Mr. Speaker, the only way to eliminate energy poverty is to reduce household costs in energy and by fighting climate change. With the volatility of oil prices and record profit of oil companies, Conservatives are proposing Canadians be chained to the oil and gas markets and completely vulnerable to foreign wars and cartels. Our plan is to give Canadians autonomy and sovereignty on their energy needs and their finances. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Battleford's Lloydminster.
Honestly, Mr. Speaker, the Liberals need to start listening to Canadians. They can't afford to put food on their table or gas in their tanks or heat their homes. The Prime Minister insists on punishing Canadians for the crime of just heating their homes or putting food on their table. They think it's a crime. It's just ludicrous. Well, the Prime Minister can afford to jet set around the world on the taxpayer's dime. Canadians are just trying to afford basic necessities. Mr. Speaker, will the NDP Liberal government have some decency and cancel their plans to triple the carbon tax?
The Honourable Minister for Families.
On this side of the House, we are listening to Canadians, and in fact, we have measures on the floor of this House right now that would support low-income Canadians, like rental supports for low-income Canadians, like dental supports for low-income children. Mr. Speaker, the Conservatives continue to have an opportunity to support those. They didn't. I don't know why they didn't, but if they did care about Canadians' household income, if they did care about making sure that Canadians had those dollars in their pockets, they would have supported rental and dental supports. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The honourable member for Bonavista Burin Trinity.
Mr. Speaker, a month ago, one of the strongest storms hit this country and destroyed homes and forever altered the lives of thousands of people in Atlantic Canada. In the first days after the storm, we saw neighbours go above and beyond to help their neighbours. Local charities, non-profits, and even the Canadian Armed Forces stepped up to help our communities. I offer them my deepest thanks. But while the immediate danger is past, there are many people who still need help. Can the Minister of Emergency Preparedness tell this House how the federal government will continue to support my constituents and the people of Atlantic Canada in the months ahead?
The Honourable Minister.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And let me first say that I believe that is in the thoughts of every member of this House. And we remain in our hearts, the members' constituents, and all those who were impacted by Hurricane Fiona. I'd like to take this opportunity, Mr. Speaker, to extend my thanks to the many people and organizations who stepped up when the storm struck and were there to help when people needed it most. In true Canadian spirit, people from coast to coast have chipped in to support ongoing relief efforts. Over $22 million has been fundraised so far for the Red Cross's work, and our government is matching every dollar raised. In recognition of Canadians' generous spirits, we recently extended this donation matching program to October 31st, and I want to assure my colleagues we'll be there for the people throughout this recovery.
The honourable member for Port Moody Coquitlam.
Mr. Speaker, Canadians are experiencing the devastation of the climate emergency. Natural disasters like Hurricane Fiona are leaving entire communities reeling. Local governments want leadership from the Liberals on climate resilient infrastructure. It is past due for infrastructure funding to live up to the times. This government would rather give billions in subsidies to big oil and gas instead of helping people fight the climate crisis. When are the Liberals going to stop dragging their feet and fund the resilient infrastructure communities need?
The Honourable Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I want to thank my honourable colleague for her question. In fact, according to independent international report, we're investing in Canada now twice as more in clean technologies and renewable energy than we are in fossil fuels. But that's just the beginning, Mr. Speaker. We've already invested $4 billion in adaptation measures, and we will be announcing in the coming months our national adaptation strategy to work with provinces, territories, Indigenous leadership, and municipalities to better prepare Canadians for climate change. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Well done. The honourable member for Edmonton Strathcona.
Mr. Speaker, over 600 students, including 80 Ukrainian refugees at the University of Alberta, weren't able to go to school this September because they couldn't get a study permit. Because of IRCC delays and backlogs, students are choosing to study elsewhere, and it is costing Canadian universities millions of dollars. The minister needs to be held accountable for ruining the lives of students who just want to study in Canada. When will this government fix the shameful problems at IRCC for students and for all those wanting to come to Canada?
The Honourable Minister of Immigration.
Mr. Speaker, with enormous respect to my colleague who posed the question, I'd point out that we have actually processed the largest number of study permits this year compared to any year on record. We have had a 30% this year over last year, which represented a 30% increase over the record-setting year prior. In addition, Mr. Speaker, we know we need to do more to continue to support international students, and I'm pleased to remind this House that we recently made a change to lift the cap on the number of hours that international students can work and have adopted new measures to make it more flexible so students could continue to pursue their studies online before they arrived in Canada. We will look under every stone that we will turn them over to find solutions to support international students because it's good for Canada.
Bravo, good point.
I'm afraid that's all the time we have for question period today. Before we leave or before anybody says anything, I wish to draw the attention of members to the presence in the gallery of the 2022 Gerhard Herzberg Canada Gold Medal for Science and Engineering Prize winner, Lenore Farrig.
Here, here.
Also with her, are with us, are the winners of the Natural Sciences and Engineering Research Council's John C. Poliani Award Brockhouse Canada Prize for Interdisciplinary Research in Science and Engineering Synergy Award for Innovation and the Arthur B. MacDonald Fellowship. I would also like to draw attention of the members to the presence in the gallery of Louise Bernice Haff, Sky Dancer, the 9th Parliamentary Poet Laureate. I believe the Honourable Member for Winnipeg North, or the Parliamentary Secretary to the Government House Leader, is rising on a point of order.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Speaker, on a very serious matter. The member for Belleuil-Chamblay today made a very disturbing statement when he clearly stated that his oath of allegiance to the Crown was not sincere. If it was not sincere, it is as if he never took it. As such, I believe that the Speaker should look into the appropriateness of this member continuing to sit in this place. We all know that the Constitution states that each member must take an oath or make a solemn affirmation, and that breaching this would be a very serious offense. I would ask, Mr. Speaker, to reflect on this and come back to the House with a ruling.
If I can have your attention, it is a very serious item, and each and every member does take an oath. But we do have a precedent set here on page 209, Chapter 4 of the third edition of Bosch and Gagnon. And let me quote. The Speaker was asked in 1990 to rule on the sincerity of a member's solemn affirmation. Speaker Fraser ruled that the chair was not empowered to make a judgment on the circumstances or the sincerity with which the duly elected member takes the oath of allegiance. The significance of the oath to each member is a matter of conscience, so it must remain. The Honourable Member for Kingston and the Islands is rising on a point of order.
Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. Given what was raised by the Parliamentary Secretary, plus your contribution to that, I would strongly encourage you to go back and review this, given that you are not being asked to interpret
his intention. He made his intention very clear. You should go back and interpret that and come back to the House at a later time, perhaps, with a ruling on that.
I'm not going to stand here and argue back and forth. What I will do is I will look at it deeper and look at different options and come back to the House should I see it fit. Thank you. Any other points of order for now? Very good. It being 3:16, pursuant to order made on Thursday, June 23rd, 2022, the House will now proceed to the taking of the deferred recorded division on the motion to concur in the 6th report of the Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration. Convoquez les députés.
Call in the members.
La question est la suivante.
The question is the following one.
Pearson moved that the 6th report of the Standing Committee on Citizenship and Immigration presented on Friday, April 29, 2022, be concurred in. La période de 10 minutes pour les députés votent.
The 10-minute period for members voting electronically has started, and the House will now proceed to the vote for members participating in person.
Those in favor of the motion will please rise.
Ms. Tager.
Ms. Tager.
Mr. McKay.
Mr. McKay.
Ms. Scrow.
Ms. Scrow.
Mr. McGuinty.
Mr. McGuinty.
Mr. Serre.
Mr. Serre.
Mr. Housefather.
Mr. Housefather.
Mr. Casey.
Mr. Casey.